Thank you for being here, and congrats on this amazing exhibition. I'm thrilled to be in it, first of all, and to share these poems in conversation. Don't worry about that, it's just part of, it's migrating, not to diminish other migrations. This is poem to be read from right to left. I learned my first language second. See. Native I am mistaken for everywhere I go. To sun and moon like the letter lamb. Sound like lamb, but think like fox. Reminds me of this recurring dream being chased in a circle like duck, goose. But there were no other children. I got tired of counting the number of English words it takes to capture one and another. Poem that wrote me into beast in order to be read. Samira and Aziza, Nabila Awatif and Adel. Isis and Mat, yes Mat, of the 42 laws and ideals we used to live by. You of white feather and commandment who made us, taught us of stars and named them, named us, made Nut and systems of irrigation, Nile, Delta, source inventors of mead and goth for drawing of lapis and woven cloth. Harp, Sinai, Berber, pen and paper, we were winged creatures, weren't we? Tell me, because I still dream of flight. Sometimes I trumpet waiting to be sound. I, who have made earrings of arrow, reporting now to you of the mythical creatures I dismantled in order to become the one writing words you are reading. Tarsal by metatarsal, I disjointed false to be true. Sometimes I am cell with eyes made up of 5-strand DNA, quintuple helix amoeba bond. I would claim you as my ancestors thrice, but once is honor. I am trying to be worthy, live to have learned so much that God made Arab to know what it is to be both black and Jew. To be Arab is to beast in order to be read. Like scripture, etched calligraphy, wood and metal, I ask you to marvel at poetry they tried to make us forget. In Guantanamo, and all unnamed time will ask us of this time, come back again and again. While we were out, the world has become image we made in our own image, and this is what we hunt. Now I've caught my reflection between incisors, I, beast of no nation, who want only to be read. Excuse me, now it is time to be fed. So I really love a studious crowd. You can see my colleagues reading along. Much preferred to our next subject, poem for Brad, who wants me to write about the pyramids, which has this footnote, which I usually read as an epigraph. So Brad was a classmate of mine, which will become evident as I share the poem. But this footnote comes from Jorge Luis Borges. And for those of you who think identity politics is like a new conversation, this quote will show you that it definitely is not. This was from a lecture that he gave in 1957 and then later was published as an essay. So Borges writes, "Some days past, I have found a curious confirmation of the fact that what is truly native can and often does dispense with local color. I found this confirmation in Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Gibbon observes that in the Arabian book par excellence, the Quran, there are no camels. I believe if there were any doubt as to the authenticity of the Quran, this absence of camels would be sufficient to prove it is an Arabian work. It was written by Muhammad, and Muhammad as an Arab had no reason to know that camels were especially Arabian. For him, they were a part of reality. He had no reason to emphasize them. On the other hand, the first thing a falsifier, a tourist, an Arab nationalist would do is have a surfeit of camels, caravans of camels on every page. But Muhammad as an Arab was unconcerned. He knew he could be an Arab without camels. I think we Argentines can emulate Muhammad, can believe in the possibility of being Argentine without abounding in local color." So Brad. He says the substance is lacking a center, a traditional plot. Says, I miss where I'm from and I set flashbacks while I walk around San Francisco. He wants to know what makes my story so much more interesting and provocative than others, says Egypt is a wonderfully exciting place, he is told by others. He does not like my scenes of policemen and sunflower seeds, says he has heard the pyramids are very interesting, wants to see more of Egypt in my writing. This is where the poets will interject. They will say, show, don't tell. But that assumes most people can see. And I bet most of you thought Brad was white, but Brad is not. But Brad is hot. So the class lets him get away with being dull. But I understand that what Brad means is he wants to see camels and more of his own ideas of Egypt in my work. And this is how this poem becomes its own genius annotation. See, what Brad missed is that I didn't give up my spot in med school for this. And if Brad had read, he wouldn't have missed the generous foreshadowing, would have seen I was saying my country has become a police state. And when I say my country, I mean both of them. The poets will say this poem is trash, but I don't care. My mother says if you want to know what the future of the world looks like, then look to Egypt and let every poem I write be a response to the cumulus cloud of aggression that follows me, and let every word work to reverse the effect of the slow meting out of systematic violence. Let every letter represent a human standing in protest. So this book is split up into 3 sections, and you just heard the opening of the first section, which are like, traditional poems, I guess, or, whatever the poets will say. It doesn't really matter, right? We'll talk about that later. But the second section is a long essay or abecedarian poem. It's really up to you how you want to read it. And I'm just going to read letter C from it, census. Census. Oh, an abecedarian. Does anybody know what that is? Yeah, you're nodding your head. Would you mind just telling the audience what it is? Yes. Yes, you. Yes. Yes. It is in the order of the alphabet. Thank you. Is that what you said? Okay, just confirming. Okay. Good. Census. In the summer of 2000, there was a knock on our front door. Then the doorbell rang. My father answered it. Hello? Hi, I'm from the Census Bureau. Do you have a few moments to answer a few follow-up questions about your census form? Sure. She looked down at her clipboard. Well, sir, it looks like you checked a few boxes for race, although it says there are only 5 people in your household. Yes. How's that possible? Previously, my father had checked the form white non-Hispanic, African, African-American, multiracial, and other. Hang on, please. Just 1 second. He loudly called out, Ya Azza! Marwa! Hatim! Yasser! We gathered at the entrance in the order he called us. Look at my family and tell me what you see. A biology professor, my father enjoyed challenging his students in the same way. She looked over our faces, each of us a different shade, ranging from my mother's ivory skin to my father's dark summer brown. My brothers and me, the gradients between. My father went on with his lesson. She may as well have come over to ask about the binomial nomenclature of some plants in the yard. We are from Egypt. A fan of the Socratic method, he went on. Do you know where Egypt is? Africa? She replied hesitantly. Would this qualify us as African American? He didn't wait for her answer this time. We get mistaken for just about everything around here, and not one of us is the same color as the other. So he paused. I checked everything that applied. By 1924, there were about 200,000 Arabs living in the United States, and by 2000, at least 3.5 million Americans were of Arab descent. It is 2010. A census form arrives in the mail. I check other and write in AR, AB. In 2016, Obama wants to add a new racial category and has chosen an acronym to describe a group of people, MENA, Middle Eastern and North African. I note the absence of the word Arab. Still, they do not sense us. So why is this important? So many reasons, and there's a lot of footnotes in this section, and there could be so many more. But, on a personal note, I did ask my dad, Dad, like African American means a history of slavery and, like, what are you doing? And he said, well, your youngest brother was actually born here, and I wanted to be accurate, right? He's like looking at it as a biologist or a scientist. He's also the most black presenting out of all of us. He has like the most black features and afro, like he would be read as black in this country. So, in thinking about the construct of race, like what do we become in migration? Not just on our interior, but like how we are read, what identity is given to us that maybe we didn't already have an awareness that we had, right? So this is like some theory, right? I don't know. Let's just put that in one bucket over here. And then to say an Egyptian is an Arab is to actually call the Egyptian by the colonizer's name, because the Egyptians were colonized by Arabs, right? Among many, many other colonizers. So, it's another misnaming. And then the fact that Arabs, like Iraqis, and now Syrians are being killed by drones, Yemen as well, through the allyship, US allyship with Saudi Arabia. To erase them by name in the census is one thing when you're already killing them, in the world. So for Obama to come through and be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do this acronym, MENA, and then it's still separating North Africa from Africa, which is another kind of whitewashing. So I could, go on and on about this, and I feel like every time I talk about it, I add like another 3 minutes to my reading. So thank you for listening and, just thinking with me about all of these invented constructs. I think that's like a good segue to The Middle East is Missing. So this is a poem written in a form called The Beautiful Outlaw. And I'm just gonna give the form away before I read it. So it's made up of stanzas that spell out the Middle East, but like the first stanza, there is no T. The second stanza, there is no H, but you have to use all the other alphabets, or all the other letters in the alphabet as you go, and then the absence spells the Middle East. Does that make sense? Look it up if you're a poetry nerd. Okay, there's a fun form to work with. The Middle East is missing. What do Osama bin Laden and I have in common? Saddam, Gaddafi, Mubarak, Sharon, Perez, is Kashmir, is Asia, is Persia, is Europe, is Iran, is Jordan, is Kurd, a language, a religion, cuisine, borders on bordering. What do you and I have in common? Red Sea, Dead Sea, an empire, Syria, Iraq, say Kurd, say we were occupied. A people under siege of make xenophobia believe, drink, and say Zemzem. Say we did it to ourselves, say complicit. I want to walk, return maps, speak to managers of map makers. I'd like to see God's atlas, compare it to ours, trace a new equator, a river Nile still running, azure, azure, upwards, its own gravity, join scapegoat to scapegoat in song. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. ×3. Say je suis Zidane, je suis Egyptienne. Say it to a rhythm, not a plot, a quality, not a toxin. Say dizzy without jury, without trial. Ask of us, just us, sing back lyric, dust off vulgar gaslight. Say it in the colonizer's tongue. Call it the cradle of civilization. Say dunya, say la ilaha illallah, say Jannah. Inscribe your history inside every barren closet you once occupied. Say quickly, here we are now, entertain us. Cartographers agitate us, exact us, excise us. Would you make a space for me between zoot-joot epoxy and a hard place, somewhere between vengeance and yoke next to the place you go to quake? I've brought my own pillow plus sleeping bag, but now the letters have become cryptic. I can't tell if it is because of shyness or lack of interest. When you look like me, you can say things no one will question or everyone will question you in June as a zygote in uterus in excess. Maybe it is a cry for help. Maybe it is just a cry. Say Palestinian, say Palestine, say Syria, say Syrian, say baby, say future, say mine. Say Yemen, say Yemeni, say Zay, say Henna, say mine, say ghost in context. Weep quietly, then wail. So make a space for me in your mind. Make me a space. Graph, transcribe, jaunt, wax, wane. Here is Neruda. Here is his book of questions. Here is mine. A quiz of sorts. This is the map I navigate by. Who you pulling from bricks? A baby, an arm, books, a ball. Whose is it, you ask, coaxing at gallons of quicksand, absorbing and vying for joy for protozoa? Pray static, pray jaw, pray Zoroastrian, pray Xanax, pray quickly, borrow what you will from God, from vagrancy, from vacancy. Before I left, I wrote, where you from, where you from, where you from, inside every empty closet of the homes I once occupied. Don't forget where you're from. Don't squint, zoom in, stow the box, lock the key, jump on. We made a new map from breath, from zone to zone we moved, traveled, walked, journeyed. There are many who experience what we haven't, quote, benefited from being, unquote. Maybe a cry for help, maybe just a cry. Maybe a memory quivering of a juvenile kingdom's lie. Maybe was a zealous royal who unleashed sand and sphinx, making borders die in yellow, blue, green, and red, orange, and cream lines. And then as a kind of, I guess, a dedication to this exhibition. Can it be a dedication if it was written before? Yes, it can. Just gotta find it. This is called Ghost Purchase. And no, that one. Wait, where? The painting? The kids' painting? Okay, let's make it that. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna do poem. We were sorry. Let's talk to the audience. So before we started, we were thinking of doing the poetry reading around the gallery and having you sort of follow us around, and having each of the poems be in conversation with the pieces. But because of our mic setup situation, we had to be stationary. So Yannis was asking, is this the poem you wanted to read alongside? You'll see the painting by the kids there that looks kind of Basquiat-ish, actually. I'm just using that reference so that you'll know what I'm talking about on the right. But I was actually thinking of a poem that wrote me into Beast in order to be read for that one, but this one also really suits it. And it is by a poet named 05661. So 05661 writes, I could buy these reading cups, now worth between 3,000 and 5,000 francs. I'd go to the galleries in Algeria or Tunisia. I'd have them removed from the cabinets in the museum from beneath the dust. I'd make the transaction. They could belong to me then and there. I even thought of buying them with the money I would make from this poem. I even thought of including them in the poem. But as I progress, they become more distant. And who needs reading cups when there is a poem to be read, I mean written? The cups once bought would lose value, like most of life, a diminishing return, or rather, latent ghost. Okay, so as I read this, I understand why you paired this. Do you want to say a bit about that painting while we're before I read the rest of it?
One of the themes of this exhibition is border crossing, and especially the section here, as you get from the back entrance, you'll see that this actually speaks to that idea of crossing borders in this specific kind of locality between Turkey and Lesbos and thus into the European Union, or rather between global south and global north. So the work that you may want to see later after the reading over there is a work painted by children in one of the migrant camps. The camp is called Karatepe, which means in Turkish the black hill. And it actually shows border crossing itself. So the kids actually portray that act of passing that major border in the world. It shows Turkey. You can tell because there's a Turkish flag over there. And the main theme in the middle, the main kind of part of the painting is the sea itself, the crossing, which is very short. It's only 5 or 6 miles. But in this painting dominates the actual synthesis. And in the center, you do have a boat full of people, but also you see some people in the water. You see some people have already actually jumped into the water or they fell into the water. And then at the top of the painting, you see the other side. You see the landing, you see Greece, and you can tell because of the Greek flag. So we were wondering whether to give a lot of kind of space and energy to the idea of border crossing, given that for many people it's only a moment, and they very often want to emphasize other aspects of their life, their own work, their own agency, their own future, their own prospect in reaching a destination. But this work was important to show because it seems that at least for younger people, for children, that brief moment, which only lasts about an hour and a half, was crucial, it was fundamental, it was something they will remember. They will remember perhaps for many, many years to come.
Mm-hmm. So back to 05661. Can you all hear me? Refugee 05661 arrived at the island of Algiers when she was 12 years old and lived in the southern United States of America, where she contracted a rare autoimmune disease, during which she turned to poetry for comfort. She became an established poet late in her life, publishing 2 volumes of poetry after 55 years of working as a healer and medium, helping connect those who had been estranged from their family members in the great refugee crisis of 2016 to 2200. Her work centered on ancestral memories, the energy that lives within objects, and the psychic space between colony and place of origin. It is also worth noting that she never used her government name and instead chose to use the last 5 numbers of her refugee ID card. She also refused to use the colonizers' hierarchy of capital and lowercase letters, insisting all letters be equal, once stating, "In my mother tongue, the letters are connected. The way the letters stand in this language is a way of disconnection I am not interested in." Copyright 2400. My last poem is for you. Poem for the beings who arrived. If you ask me where I come from, I have to converse with broken wings. This is a line, and all love is agreement each day of living, an agree or a disagree. And love is not what we think it is, what we have been told it is, agree or disagree. I am telling you how to read me. Neruda wrote, if you ask me where I come from, I have to converse with broken things, with the beings who arrived, who had the glasses of the heart. We are the beings who arrived because we had the glasses of the heart. We are the broken beings who arrived with glass for hearts. Poetry is instrument, allows us to see through thought. Thank you for saying my work does not sound like it is in translation. Thank you for not saying my work sounds like it is in translation. We are all the proof I need as singularity approaches us. They ask with intrigue, how did you construct your blackness in America? Each question requires a reconstruction, and I am always never constructed. In Egypt, they ask, do they hate us? I pretend not to know who they mean by they, what they mean by hate, but I know because I live with they, and ain't they? Ain't they? We have to stop pretending we are not winning. And I know, you know, we know, when I dip, you dip, we dip. This one goes out to all the women in the world. You see me everywhere I go. They want to know which one I am and more of. Still, you see me. The mask I wear is not Leo rising, but the colonizers falling. And still, you see me. And when I say you see me, what I mean is you feel me. We, the beings who arrive. Thank you.